grief doesn't mean you're broken or that you need to get over it. It just means you loved deeply. You remember that. That is very therapeutic, to remember how much you've loved. And again, the goal isn't to move on, it's to move forward with it, is to be with it.
Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I am your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. My name's Jamie. I'm here with my two best friends, Jessica and Corlin. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Well, I said hi right when Jessica took a drink of
drinking.
water. Okay. Hi, guys. So glad to see you guys. It has been quite a weekend for me. We had our first party at our new house, so it was super
I saw
fun.
photos that looked and heard music.
Yes, we had a band here. I had a couple friends that actually kayaked from their house down the river to our house and then wore headlamps to kayak home.
Country ass living, Jamie, right there.
They kayak to the party. I love it. Some like crazy people with cut off jean shorts, a tank top, and a stick on a.
Oh, that was just me.
Just trying to bring their tails down to wherever the music is. Like they're just following the noise.
They just heard it. It was some banjos. It's fine. It's fine. It's Iowa. How about you guys? Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, busy.
Yeah. Corlin was too busy to come to my party. It's fine though.
It's fine.
Just kidding. She was a little closer than Jessica.
Your tail to Omaha though, so I get credit for that.
Yes.
Can't.
It was nice to see you.
We actually, as a side note, this is actually kind of funny. Do you guys ever invite your kids, friends to do stuff and you realize in the moment, like your child picked the wrong friend? I will preface this. If the mom is listening, I 1,000% love your little boy. He's amazing. But we went to our local Valley Fair, and this was my son's birthday present. So instead of doing a big friend birthday, he decided to do a ticket for him and his buddy to go to like the amusement park, right? And so I sent the text to the mom like, hey, my son wants to invite your son to come to this party or come to this day, like roller coaster, like how does your kid do with rides? It was fine. They went to a couple different things. Everything is fine. Well, we get there and he is not fine. He does not want to go on any rides. It was really kind of challenging because my little guy is trying to boost up his we can just go on this one, and he doesn't, and does not want to leave him. So whatever he doesn't want to do, I'm not going to do. So we ended up making a very expensive walk around the amusement park. Yeah,
yes,
it was.
You're nice, because I would have been like, you know what? I'm taking you home. Let's go.
He did actually at the end of it, and the one thing I will say with this is that it was really incredibly sweet because I could tell this little boy wanted to do it, but it was just the roller coasters are high and he's never done them before. And he's there with us, which is not his mom or dad, so he's having his experiences without his family. And he's like, okay, I think I'm ready to go on the wild thing, which is the tallest one that they have. And I'm like, all right, are you sure? Like, do you want to eat what? And he's like, no, let's just go over there. I don't want to have any time to talk myself out of this. So let's just go. So this little 11-year-old boy is like giving himself his own little pep talk. And he's looking up there. He's like, okay, I think going down the hill, the first thing is it's just going to be 3 seconds. I see it. And then once it's done, then we're good. Then it's fine. He's totally pep talking himself the whole way through. So we ended up going on a couple roller coasters at the end of the day, but it was, several hours of
I'm like, this story better have a happy ending somewhere, Corey.
Yeah, at least you probably got corn dogs and stuff, right? Yeah, exactly.
Corn dogs.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just want to say thanks, start this off and say thanks for taking the time to listen to us today. We really appreciate it. We get great comments and suggestions. And I'll get into this a little bit in a minute, but if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, then you'll see that we've got some guests today. It's going to be a good one. You can jump on our website and look at the merch we have, leadlikeagirllab.com. You can go on the YouTube channel, Lead Like a Girl Lab. We love all the comments and likes and shares and all the things that we have on social media. We just appreciate it all. So this is a topic that is pretty special to me. It's something that I've been dealing with here for quite a period of time, something that kind of hit me within the last couple weeks. As you guys know, if you've listened for a while, my mom passed away about a year ago, and it was her 1-year anniversary of her passing last week. And I always kind of have to gear myself up for things like that. And I started reading this book. I've read it before. It's called Bearing the Unbearable, Love, Loss, and the Heartbreaking Pain of Grief. So it's by Dr. Joanne Cacciatore. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. But it's a book that explores grief with compassion and spiritual insight, and it's a very honest book about grief. And one of the quotes at the beginning of this book is, "Grief is love's unwillingness to let go." It's just a powerful reminder that it's not a weakness. It's not a problem that you have to solve. It is a reflection of deep love. So grief is something that we all encounter. Often it does feel isolating. And a lot of times, yes, it's the loss of a loved one, but it's not always the loss of a loved one. It can be the loss of a person, yes, but it can also be the loss of a job, the loss of a dream. You might have had a dream in your life and you lost that dream. That's happened to me, I know. It could be the loss of a certain version of yourself, like maybe you're an empty nester now. Grief changes us. So today, we're not here to dwell in the sadness alone or to deal with things alone. We're here to share some of our stories, our tools, and just share our hope. So this episode is really about navigating this grief together with some honesty, compassion for each other, and some guidance. So really the first thing I want to do is introduce our amazing group of women that we have here today. I want to start with Dr. Bita because she was on one of our previous episodes. If you've listened, it was a really great episode. I very much enjoyed it. And so, of course, we invited her back. If you wouldn't mind, Dr. Bita, would you mind just taking a couple minutes and introduce yourself again? And what I'd really like to know really from all of our guests is a little bit about you, but then also, why did you feel like it was important to be part of today's discussion?
Absolutely. With pleasure. Again, my name is Bita Shahidi. The doctor part comes from having my doctorate in the art and practice of physical therapy. And I've been doing that for 22 plus years. And just about 3 years ago, I decided to combine that with life coaching because I realized I was already doing it as I was practicing the healing and helping people get back to their functional goals. Really use the same algorithm to help them achieve their life goals. And that's where I got interested in getting certified and becoming a life coach. And of course, my background is wellness. So that's what I get approached with most of the time. And I love helping people in that area. And when I heard about this particular podcast, it really sparked an interest in me because it's a journey that I've been through personally, and I have experienced the ups and downs of it. I have experienced the different feelings that come along and the stories that I've told myself about it, and just the whole journey of grieving. And I've experienced the frustration of it because I felt like people around me didn't understand, or they were like, get over it already. Mm-hmm. So I felt like this is a subject that can help many because we all die. We all go one day. And, it's the ones that are left are the ones that have to really navigate those feelings that they have to deal with afterwards. And like you said, loss is not just loss of a person, but it can be loss of a job, loss of a life, starting a new life, letting go of the past life. And that's another type of grief that, you have to allow yourself to go through in order to grow, to go to the next level, to start your new life. So if I could contribute anything just from personal experience and stories, I thought, well, I think it would be valuable. We all have stories, and I can't wait to hear all of yours. And I'll be more than happy to share mine.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. So we've got 3 other ladies here with us today. I'm going to pick on Erica because she was the very first one to jump on today. So Erica, would you want to take a couple minutes to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Erica Bruno Martin on LinkedIn. Geez, trying to describe myself in a non-career way that's a little weird on a podcast. I don't know what to say right now, but basically, long story short, it's funny because Jessica put out a post and I probably had like 3 or 4 people who were like, you should talk right now, like on this thing. And I was like, I don't know. And then she reached out and I was like, all right, yeah, I think you're right. I have shared a lot of the grief I've dealt with in the last, I would say, especially the last 11 to 12 years. I've lost a lot of people that are close to me. Recently, just lost my grandmother 2 weeks ago. And on Thursday, we found out my mom has stage 4 bile duct cancer. So, talking about how grief can just smack you right in the face like
Mm-hmm.
multiple times, I think is a really important topic. Sorry, I'm going to try not to cry. But
It's okay.
long story short, I think I'm a big believer that we get to project ourselves to the world in so many ways, right? We get to choose how we project ourselves. But I always admire the people who are not only strong in the good moments, but in the bad moments too. And I think that's something I'm really proud that I have done pretty good job at. Oh,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to pick on Amy next because she was the next one to pop on. So,
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm, yeah, come from the automotive business. I'm in sales and I'll leave the career, stuff at that. But I live in Texas. I am an only parent right now, have 2 kids. My husband passed away from suicide in 2018 and left me with a 6 and 8 year old. And when I saw Jessica's post about who wanted to join, I jumped on it because I've overcome so much in the last 7 years just going through the grief process. And maybe I'm stuck in that, bargaining phase of grief where I'm like, God, if you get me through this, I promise I'm going to help somebody else that needs to hear what I've been through and maybe can find strength from what I've been through. But yeah, that's why I wanted to join and talk about my story.
Mm-hmm.
thank you very, very much. Okay. How about you, Carrie? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm Carrie Wise. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. And I've been also in the automotive industry for 25 years as an executive. My mother died in 18, and that was really the most traumatic experience with grief I had ever experienced. I'd never had someone so close to me die outside of, a grandparent that I wasn't as close to from a daily standpoint. And so for me, that definitely shook my world, changed a lot for me. I think what was most important for me when I saw the post and asking for people's stories, I think is I definitely held it together from an external standpoint. A lot of people don't even know my story because I don't share a lot of my personal story. I'm not one that posts everything about what's happening in my life. And I think it is important though for people to, as Erica said, to kind of see not just your successes, but to understand that kind of behind that, there's pain sometimes that you're working through and you're just doing one step at a time and you're as normal as the next person. So for me, it's about hopefully my story inspires somebody else who is going through the same challenges.
Oh, thank you for that. I did agree. I think everybody has everyone really has their own way. No one grieves the same way. We all have to go through it sometimes in our life. So this is just such an important topic. Honestly, thank you, all of you, so much for doing this with us. There's several quotes in this book that I'm going to mention, and I know you haven't read it, but hope maybe you will. But there's a quote that says, "The only cure for grief is to grieve. Grief cannot be bypassed, avoided, or fixed. It really just has to be felt and honored." So, question I have for you is, what's one comforting ritual, habit, or memory that's helped you feel supported when you're really going through a hard time with your grief?
For me, when I was at the lowest points of my grief, the one thing that really helped me get through, I would say, the next minute of life was meditation. I got in a dark room, turned on my meditation app, and I got to where I was meditating like 20 minutes a day, twice a day. And it really just allowed me to calm my thoughts, control my thoughts, and not let them lead to destructive behaviors. Because, you become what you think about. And I had a lot of destructive behaviors during those destructive thoughts during those first couple of years. And you don't want that to define you and become who you are. And meditation was just huge for me.
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
you go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to jump in because of what you said. When I was going through grief, when I first I lost my dad in 2010, and that was my first experience losing someone very close to me. I was in a really deep, dark hole in my life at that time. I can't even describe how painful it was. Funny enough, when I tried to meditate, because what I was being pulled towards that was helping me stay sane was reading a lot of these self-development books like The Art of Happiness or by Dalai Lama or by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And
I thought I could read my grief away. I did the same thing. I thought, I'm going to read it and that will cure my grief.
Yeah, and I soaked it up. But one thing that I tried to do was meditation, and it had the opposite effect of me. Whenever I stood silent with my thoughts to meditate, it gave me a panic attack because it all of a sudden the silence was what was triggering my anxiety. And for the longest time, I was afraid to be alone and silent. I would always want to be around somebody. Or one thing that really helped me personally was I would need to get out of the house. So I would go for a run in the nature. Nature was the most calming thing for me during that time. And it distracted my mind from the deep, dark, not very healthy thoughts that were going on in my head at the time. So I just wanted to bring that up to say, look how different people can respond to grief, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that was my experience. Yeah.
I love that.
I think for me, when my mom died, I isolated myself significantly. It was almost like I was mad at everybody in the world, including God. And so if I look back, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until when I really look back, like my best friend, I kind of stopped talking to her regularly. My sister and I had it out. Really during her illness, through her death, we bumped heads, died. It was like, okay, we're done. We're kind of done dealing with each other daily. We don't have to do this anymore, right? And these are all unconscious things. It wasn't something that, was said. It was just like, all right, she's done. We don't have to collaborate anymore for now. My marriage ended. Like literally almost every close relationship to me, I now realize I kind of isolated myself. And then even God, like I really wasn't connected like I was like spiritually. With that being said, I would listen to music and songs, and they typically were spiritual because the only hope I had was that she was in a better place. That's the only thing that could give me any solace, is that she's in a better place, that I'm going to see her again. Like holding on to that was really, really important. I think there were times, and it wasn't all the time, that I had some level of gratitude that I had an amazing mother. And I would only really realize that when I would talk to somebody who didn't. In some ways, you don't want to be happy that, oh, I'm lucky and I had a good mom and you didn't. But that would give me some, comfort that the only reason why I'm grieving the way I am is because I had this amazing mother who was nearly perfect. And a lot of people don't have that. They're grieving about the relationship they never had, or they're not grieving at all because they just never experienced that level of love. And so there's some part of me that did click that, wow, okay, I experienced her for 70 years. I'd also think about people who lost their mom at 5 and 10. Once again, you don't want to be happy for, like relative to someone else, but there still was this kind of like, wow, I'm glad I had her for 70 years. I had her through adulthood. She met my kids, right? Like all of that. And those were the only things I could kind of hold on to, that like I had it better than a lot of people.
Yeah. Now that's a great point, Carrie. So my dad died in a car accident when I was 11. And to your point, and one of the things that would help me be grateful, my little sister and brother were only 2 and 3 years old. They never had the opportunity to meet him. I used to tell myself that I at least had those 11 years with those memories when they have nothing, have the stories and the pictures that we showed them. The other thing I want to say about my experience that was unique is that um, we don't realize how resilient kids are. So I did not grieve until in my 30s. And I didn't realize that until after the ending of my first marriage. And in therapy, I realized, oh my gosh, I never grieved my dad's death at 11 years old because I did not know how to process that. So it's important. And I don't know that it necessarily has to be a kid, but I do know that sometimes people don't, they suppress it and they don't grieve. And you may not realize that you didn't even go through a grieving process. And in my opinion, it is a process that you have to go through one way or the other. And even now to this day, I always think of those memories, like the good times. There's like a handful of like solid memories that remind me of my dad that makes me laugh, that I cherish. And those moments that I'm like, you know what, I really miss him. I wish he had a chance to meet my kids, or I wish he, saw me walk across the stage, that type of stuff. I get sad, but then I think about those times that we did have. And that's kind of how I kind of bounce back and make myself laugh or smile about them.
I had a friend of mine tell me his dad had recently passed away at this time, and he was looking at me, and you could tell he was just kind of processing things out loud. And he's like, and he's kind of shaking his head. He's like, death is the thing that we all know is coming, but we're never prepared for. And it always, and even just listening to everyone here, it hits everyone in a little bit different way. And even if you had some advanced notice, if you were dealing with somebody who maybe had cancer or something like that, where you kind of know the end is coming, it's still, when you hear those words that they've passed, I've never been prepared for that. And I think that one of the greatest blessings that I had was being able to speak at their funeral. I had an aunt that passed away. Just to be able to reflect on her life in a public way and be able to share those feelings was really cathartic. And I felt like it was a blessing for other people to be able to put words and feelings and stories when they couldn't share for themselves. And so I think that if that's a possibility to be able to do that and have that gifting, and whether or not it's a public forum like the funeral or a more private setting like a family gathering after the fact, being able to share what that person meant to you is really healing.
Yeah. I'm always that person, by the way. Every time someone's funeral is, they're like, Jessica, get up here and say something. I'm like,
I'm glad you brought that up, Jessica, because I feel like we're all three like public speaking, very apt at public speaking. And at my mom's funeral, there was no way I could have got up and done anything. I could not have said anything, but we did a dedication. We have a bench that we put at a park near her house, and we did a dedication and had a picnic. And they did that to me. They were like, Jamie, you have to go up there. And my niece, honestly, she slapped me on the butt and she said, "You're going to cry, aren't you?" And I was like, dang it. I went up there and I was able to say most of it, but boy, towards the end,
Yeah, I was going to share that I've lost or had cancer diagnosis about 10 different people in the last almost 15 years, and um I definitely did not grieve probably in the first 10 of it, right? Like I just kept going through, and it wasn't until I lost my job and I just like went into a depressive spiral that all of a sudden I was like, I really need to deal with some of the stuff I've been through, right? Like, and a big thing for me was writing. My uncle actually joked, he was like, "You're really good at writing obituaries." And I'm like, I didn't realize that was a good thing.
What
Like,
a skill to do.
yeah, because I wrote my grandfather's and my grandmother's, and again, they basically raised me, right? So like it was a big loss for me. But yeah, I guess evidently I got a new job potentially as an obituary writer, but because of the fact that I'm able to put it into writing, I think really helped me be able to, grieve and process things a lot easier. So
What I love about writing down is then you have the ability to go back on your past writings and see how much you've grown,
Yeah.
and how far you've
yeah.
come.
yeah.
yeah.
Carrie, you made me, this has a little bit to do with what one of the things you brought up. There's another quote from the book that says, grief never ends, but it changes. It's a passage, but it's not a place to stay. It evolves. And, this quote really gave me some hope without kind of like minimizing the pain. So what do you think has helped you the most? And in your grief journey, was there ever a moment that you noticed like a shift or a change and I think, Carrie, when you had mentioned that when your mom, all of a sudden, you kind of went, you know what, I'm lucky, or I'm happy that I had this great mom. What was there a moment where something shifted or something changed and you noticed it?
I think for me, it was just organic and over time. I mean, I feel like when I first found out my mom had cancer, my mom died of cancer, she fought for 1 year from the time she was diagnosed to the time she died. And I think there was a grief journey even in her having cancer. It's when I realized I was more pessimistic than optimistic in some ways, because I had started preparing myself like, what if she dies? How will I even respond? Like even before she died, right? And then I think with her dying, now you're in this other phase of like, okay, she's died. I think I could never have imagined ever living without her, right? Like I thought I would literally die without my mom. Even the thought, before she passed away, of like your parents dying, I could never. But then here you are. And so I think for me, there was some level of acceptance, but it was kind of organic. I don't know why I was so angry at everybody. Right? Maybe it was a matter of like they were just so close to me, and I couldn't hide. From them. The people that were closest to me, and I was more vulnerable. But I think there was a moment, and I can't remember whether it was a year later or 2 years. It was probably 2 years later. COVID was 2 years after my mom died, so I was really having to sit and not, commuting to work and not be as busy. And there was a moment where I was finally, it didn't affect me daily. There's a moment where I actually was okay for a week or 2 weeks where it didn't haunt me. And then it's almost like you feel a little guilty, because my biggest fear was like, I don't want the world to forget her.
Yes. Yeah.
That was my biggest fear. Like, she's going to die and everybody's going to move on. And I need to make sure everyone remembers her. And now I've forgotten her. Not, not, it's not plaguing me daily. So I can't even answer the question on what happened. I just know that there was this moment where I turned the page a little bit, that I wasn't like crying daily, where it wasn't impacting me, and where I was actually just moving on a little bit with life.
Yeah. I understand that completely. When my mom passed, my sister and I were co-executors of her will. So oftentimes we would talk about, we got to get all this work done. Neither one of us can start grieving yet, because we got to get all this work done. We have to empty her house. We have to sell her house. We have to figure out her will. We have to pay off all of her bills. We have to pay her mortgage. We have to figure out all this old bills from old stuff. We had so much work to do. And we actually brought it up to each other, where I'm like, I don't feel like I can start grieving yet, because this is just weighing on me. There's just so much to get done. A super quick story, but she passed away September 30th. So almost exactly a year ago. And, she used to grow roses, and she made a rose garden for her mom, my grandma. And so she loved roses. And so when I moved into this new place, one of the things I did just like a month ago, I planted a rose garden, really not expecting anything out of it. And on the 29th, September 29th, my sister and I finally got news that it was done. The whole will was done. Everything was done. Finally, her taxes and everything was done. The whole estate is closed. And then she joked with me, and because I said, one of these rose bushes has a bud on it. I'm like, there's what? Like, these are brand new. Like, can't believe that. And she goes, wouldn't it be funny if it bloomed tomorrow? Okay, it bloomed. It bloomed on the 1 year anniversary of her passing away. And for me, I mean, I was a wreck that day, but it was almost like it was a bit of a shift before that happened, because of just kind of getting the work kind of done. But we definitely talked about that, like putting it off, kind of putting off the grief, because you feel like you have to do all these things and get, kind of like I said, get the work done. But it was a shift, and it was kind of like a sign
I don't know if you guys believe in signs, but it was kind of a sign for me to go, okay, it's okay. Like now you can start feeling the way you feel about your mom. You know, you can start dealing with it a little bit more. She's here, she's with you. Totally felt her presence that day.
I think I love your stories, by the way, because there's so much in common in every story that you guys say with my own life. But when my father died in 2010, it took me much longer to experience that shift. It happened gradually, but it took a very long time. For years, I could not talk about my dad without crying. A lot of times I avoided it because I knew that the wave of emotions that would come to me. It was different with my mom. And the reason was because with my dad, there was also a lot of guilt behind that. And so I'm not sure if that was the biggest reason why, but I just suffered so much more his loss. And not that I didn't suffer that loss with my mother, because I grew very close to my mother, especially after my father died. But one thing that I learned to do with my mom that was different with my dad is that I wasn't afraid. Once I experienced that with my dad, I was no longer afraid to face my mortality and my family's mortality. And it went much smoother. The whole process was so much smoother with my mother. I decided to face it. I decided not to run away from seeing her suffer and instead go to her. I left everything. I left my job and just said, you know what, I'm going to go stay with her. And I got a car, and I bought a car in Georgia and drove it all the way to California. That way I could have a car there because, it would be too expensive to rent a car. But anyway, the story is I was not afraid to watch her die, and I was there with her and held her hand, and I put my own emotions aside at the moment to be with her because I knew she needed me. I put my own fears away to be with her. So when she died, the shift came to me again in a gradual manner, but much faster than it did with my dad. And when I knew that shift happened was when I could easily just laugh and talk about her and talk about the wonderful memories without losing my mind and crying and getting all emotional. But I just laugh, and everybody else around me laughed. And it just, when that happened, I knew that, okay, I've learned to move on. Her memory will never be forgotten because I think there isn't a day that I don't talk about my mother. I talk about her to my clients. I talk about her to my husband all the time. So her memory will never, ever die. And for you, Carrie, trust me, just because you're living and you're moving on with your life doesn't mean the memory of your mother is gone. It never is, because she will be in every conversation. She will be in everything you do. You're cooking something and you'll remember her and you say something about it. You know what I mean? So it always brings a smile to my face when she is always the foremost in my mind. And when I share her stories with others, and it just proves to me how much I loved her. And that's what keeps me going. That's what makes me say, you know what? It's okay. She's still around. She's in my heart. She's everywhere. And that just means there was that much love between us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And yesterday I asked Corlin and Jamie to just take some time to ourselves to just pray for each of you, just because, I was just so grateful that you guys joined us today. But as I was praying, um, I thought about Amy because, the majority of us has dealt with a parent or a grandparent. And we just talked about guilt. And I thought, man, my heart just got heavy for you, Amy, because I thought when it's a spouse and it's something like suicide, and I bring this up only because I feel like there's so many people that I've come in contact with, a couple of them that sent me messages and then decided that they could not come on the show. And then after that, you had reached out. So I think there's a good amount of people that specifically deal with that. And I just feel like it's kind of a thing of its own. And maybe you've had some experience too, Dr. Beta, in terms of people, but I don't know. I just felt heaviness as I was praying, Amy, just because that just has to be hard. The guilt piece of it. Have you gotten past that, or how did you? Can you share
Um,
anything about that?
I think I'm thinking about your friends that decided not to do it as I'm trying to not lose it over here. Maybe I shouldn't have, but no, I Beta's kind of got me choked up. Like that was beautiful what you said. And I liked, you said how you got through your mom's grief a little easier. And that brought me a little hope because I'm terrified of experiencing grief. I don't know if I'll make it through it again because, and I know like with suicide, it is a little different because you have the guilt. And I don't have never considered myself to be a suicidal person. Like I've never had suicidal thoughts or anything like that, except 6 months after my husband did it. I was at the lowest point in my life and I had such guilt and shame about everything that happened. And I did have those thoughts and I knew I needed to get help right away for it. And that's when I, took some time off work. I went on a leave of work for 2 months, and that's very hard for strong women that are career driven. And sometimes you have to admit, hey, I need a break. I have to take
Yeah.
care of myself, and I had to do that. And it was the best thing I ever did during that time was just take that break. But I would say whenever I do have those thoughts of the guilt, I talk about it with people. I talk about it with my friends, and they always remind me, Amy, it was his choice to do that.
Yeah.
He had many other options. You did not have to choose to do that. It was not your fault. And just hearing somebody else say it to me and remind me and to speak that life into me and to, get those negative, evil thoughts out of my head
Yeah.
helps me to keep going. So you have to just really surround yourself with people that love you, want the best, and can really uplift you through it all.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks for sharing, because we talk about this a lot on the show, just having your people and having your community and how important it is.
If I can jump in, I was going to say, so I've had a lot of expected deaths and a lot of unexpected deaths in the last 15 years. And I think the unexpected are honestly 10 times worse than the expected, right? Because when it's cancer or it's old age, right? You're preparing yourself mentally in the background, if you will, even if it's not front of your mind all the time. The unexpected ones are the worst because like one of my really best friends in college died in a freak accident, right? Like he was in surgery and just passed away. And he was only 27. We were 27. And I remember going to his funeral with a bunch of my friends, and we were just like, how does this happen? Right? Like I was supposed to go get lunch with him a week before. And I was kicking myself. Like I felt so guilty for so long because I was like, why did I not go get lunch with Josh? Right? Like, why? Because of a dealer that needed me or something that happened that I felt was way more important than having a lunch with him. And then my cousin died in a boating accident. Him and one of his friends died in a boating accident, and it was a week before they were able to find his body. And like that was hell, right? Because you're holding on to hope that maybe there's a miracle that he survived, this and that. You're grieving even though it's not official, right? Your family is grieving, and now all of a sudden all of us, like it was a situation where again, I'd moved home, like all this stuff, and we always kept being like, oh, let's get together, let's hang out, let's do this, and just never could get it to sync up. And literally, me and my sisters all were like, the best time that we had was 2 years before when we had like a cousin get together, right? And like we were all joking and laughing and being like, we need to do this, right? And so where I'm bringing this to is that whether it's expected or unexpected, what I loved that Dr. Beta brought up is like, if anything, each death has only reminded me more and more to be present and to like live life, right? Like be with the people that matter, be with the people I love, and making the time for those things that all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm so busy, I don't have time, I can't do this. Be like, no, I'm going to lunch. No, I'm going to this. No, I'm going to that. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I need to weigh whether, is it more important for work? Is it more important for life? Is it more important for this, etc.? But I feel like after you've experienced grief and death and really understanding what I like to say is important in life, you start to realize, okay, this can wait, right? Like this can wait if all of a sudden the next day I don't get to see this person. And I think that's the other part is every single person I've lost or I've had, grief about has always reminded me when they were alive of like the good things about myself, right? So I always think about that. And I always think about like I even to this day I think what would Josh think? Like what would Josh think of me right now? Would he be proud of what I've done? Would he, be right there cheering me on like when I moved to California? And that's the type of stuff that keeps me going because it's like, you know what? Josh would be proud. Mark would be proud. My grandfather would be proud. And so I think that's a part of it too, is like almost honoring them in some ways. And I think that's really important too. And God, Amy, I want to give you a hug so bad through this computer screen. But yeah, it's not easy. But especially the unexpected, I feel like is definitely the worst.
It's not. And the emotions of regret and guilt are the worst. And, they grip every one of us for one reason or another. But what we have to realize is that we don't know what we don't know a lot of times in life. And a gift that grief brings us is that it teaches us what's important. And so in the moments in our lives where we're making choices, should I go to this event or should I spend time with my husband? Should I, and those are the little decisions that you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to spend time with my husband. It's just, it's the little things that grief has taught me. I look at life differently than I did before I lost my parents. And you do become a different person. You become a completely different. I used to think it was a negative thing that now I am more, I don't want to say I'm more scared, but I get more anxious about certain things. But I realize, no, it's a gift because it's letting me know what's important in life. Whereas before I was just completely carefree, never thought anything could happen to me or my family, and never even thought about my choices. But now I actually think about my choices in life and, weigh them out. So it's okay to have those feelings of guilt and regret. There are a lot of people. I had them for my dad and my guilt feelings for him because I was so scared of watching my hero, my best friend, deteriorate day by day. I ran away instead of being there for him. I ended up my first marriage just meeting somebody and moving to a different state. And, I was so guilty about that because I'm like, how selfish of me was that? But because of that fear that was gripping me about, losing my dad and watching him deteriorate like that. And I thought that if I just avoid it and go away, that it was going to just disappear. Well, it doesn't. So my best advice is to face it, face those feelings. Like you said, Amy, it's so important to have people you trust to talk about those feelings. Facing them means you talk about them, you're bringing up to surface, and it's not easy. It's painful, but then it helps you work through it.
A lot of people don't know what to say to you. They do
Yeah,
not know. And I think you have to really find those strong people that know the right things to say and be around those people. And
absolutely.
I remember right after it happened, just thinking like, how is the world still turning? How are people still going about their lives? And knowing what's going on with me, it was so hard to see all of that. But, like you said, Beta, I feel like experiencing that has transformed me and has given me more grace and compassion for other people. When I see somebody on the road speeding by or having a bad day or, being nasty to somebody, I think to myself, oh, well, we don't know what's going on in their life right now. And before that happened to me, I was quick to judge. And now they could be dealing with something serious at home right now. We don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do. I like the person I've become after going through this. Like I've really transformed into a different person and I like me now. It's a beautiful thing. It's a horrible thing and a beautiful thing all in one.
I agree about what people say to you, and I feel bad for the things I probably said before my mom died to people to try to comfort them, oversimplifying things like you're going to see them again,
Yeah.
and trying to like make them feel better with one statement or and I realized, yeah, when my mom died and I'm hearing some of these same things and it's like, yeah, that's not what I want to hear right now.
Yeah.
I get it. I get the bigger picture, but right now in this moment, that's not what I want to hear. And so, yeah, it definitely makes you more empathetic. And I also feel bad for people because it is tough. They're uncomfortable. Most people are very uncomfortable with grief, which is why a lot of us are in our own little cocoons dealing with grief on our own. Because I always felt like whenever I would bring it up, I could feel the room shift.
Oh yeah.
I brought the bad news and everyone's energy was down. And so that was also like you feel like a burden.
Yeah, there was another quote in the book that talked a little bit about moving on, basically saying like you don't have to move on from grief to be able to heal. It's more like you move with it, and there's this challenge in culture that there's this pressure that you have to get over it. Just you're going to get over it, but it's a journey. It doesn't have an end point. It's just you're moving along with it. And I think, sometimes it's just people don't know what to say. And honestly, it's probably okay. Honestly, it takes a lot of courage for someone to say something to you. So I almost looked at it that way a little bit, where it was a lot of like you, Erica. There's been a lot of, unfortunately, lost a lot of people in the last probably 10 years. But I just noticed a lot of times it's like, so how are you? It's just very much like, I'm like, just thanks for asking. Like, just really,
I was going to say,
comfortable it is.
I think the most beautiful part has been honestly the people who have been like, thank you for talking about this, right? Because like I feel like I can't, or no one understands it, or I try to bring it up and someone says something like, oh, well, you'll see them again. And it's like, that's great, but that's not right now, right?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
not, that doesn't solve it. The Band-Aid is not going to solve a gaping wound, right? Like and that's the part that.
Love that. Before we started, I asked Dr. Beta if she would include some tools, and I feel like you actually got into a lot of them already as you were speaking. Is there any last tool you'd like to mention, Dr. Beta, for us that we can maybe use to really help all of us keep moving on and
Yeah, absolutely.
through the grief? Or if anyone else has a tool or something that maybe they're doing that they'd like to share?
Well, one of the tools, of course, there are the basic tools that the physical tools. I talk about just walking, doing yoga, going into nature, nourishing your body. That has helped me significantly deal with grief because it refreshes my mind and it shifts my thoughts into better things like gratitude, like being thankful for having somebody like that in my life. And you want to take care of yourself physically because our body is a gift and you have to think about that and say, you know what, that just reminded me that I'm not here forever. I live in this life on this earth for a period of time, and I am responsible for take care of my mind, body, and soul. And those are the things that remind you. So those physical tools absolutely put your mind at ease. Emotional tools, journaling, Erica, you talked about writing. That is incredibly therapeutic. And then, of course, we talked about the support groups, people, friends. It doesn't have to be a official support group. It could be just a friend. And a friend that can just sit and be in your space, and not somebody who would try to fix it for you, right? That's really what we need when we are going through something like that. Or just going through some creative outlets. If you like to dance, do more dancing. If you like to play the music, go play the piano. These are all things that kind of shifts our brain cells and takes them into more positive avenues. That brings us into, wow, life is great. Gratitude, this is amazing. What a great life my mother had. And it's just, it all ties into each other. And of course, the spiritual tools, everybody's belief is different, but just, maybe lighting candles, maybe talking to your loved one, maybe telling stories about them. We talked about that. Prayer, my personal journey, I've been really, my personal journey with God has been in the works and it's developing every day. And Friday, I have to tell you this real quick. I know we're running out of time. My mother passed in 2021, and I just want to share this with you. Friday, It was a horrible day for me. I could not sleep. I didn't sleep the entire night. I had to go get up. I was feeling absolute worse. My stomach was nauseous. My head was hurting. And because it's close to her anniversary. And so I got up and I got my Bible and I just started reading. And I read and I read and I highlighted and it just resonated with me. I read Matthew's, I read Proverbs, and Proverbs talks about life. And that's just my personal journey I'm sharing with you. The point of it is anything, if you believe in anything higher than yourself, it is incredibly helpful to know that you don't have to burden everything on your own shoulders. Okay. So those are some of the tools that I wanted to talk about. And again, gratitude, shifting your mindset. It's incredibly important. And grief doesn't mean you're broken or that you need to get over it. It just means you've loved deeply. You remember that. That is very therapeutic to remember how much you've loved. If there's any place you want to really experience that love is when you're grieving. And again, the goal isn't to move on, it's to move forward with it, is to be with it. When I felt that way Friday, I knew what it was. And I was like, okay, I wasn't pushing myself to move on and say, I can't believe this is happening. Why am I doing this like 4 years later? It hits you like that. It will hit you like that. I don't care how many years goes by. Be gentle with it and go with it. So those are all the little pointers that I can give. I hope it helps because I've experienced them.
Thank you so much.
It's good. I want to add something really quick because I hear this a lot when people talk about anniversaries. And I don't know how I did this as an 11-year-old kid, but I blocked my dad's day. I could not tell you right now what the date of his death because I don't know it. I don't want to know it and I don't think about it. And so I created that strategy for myself because I'd always been around people. Well, in my family, when it would be someone's anniversary, they would get drunk and cry and do all this crazy shit. So as an 11-year-old, I said, I will never remember this date as a date of my dad's death. I'll just remember my dad. And it's worked for me. Sometimes I'll see like one of my sisters or brothers put something on Facebook and saying, today's my dad's. And I'm just like, and I just keep scrolling and it still has never registered. And I'm 40 some odd years old. So I don't know how I created that, but that's my thing is I don't know when the anniversary is.
There's a poem, Jessica, on that note called The Dash. If you haven't read it, just look it up. It's called The Dash. And it's basically saying the same thing, that our lives are not our birthday and our death. It's not the death date. Yeah. It is the dash, right? Yeah. It's the years that we actually lived. And it's exactly saying that same thing. I think for me, I have reconnected spiritually. I fell off tremendously after my mom died. Like I was mad at everybody, including God. And that has helped a lot. It's just being reconnected with my higher power, with my savior, and really understanding the bigger picture that the world has been around for centuries, but the idea that we are here together in the same point, in the same time, spending time, like have all been uniquely placed at the same time to be together, and including my mom. I think understanding that, why I cried when my kids were born, because it was just such almost like the closest you get to a spiritual connection to something higher power is birth. And I felt the same way when I watched my mom take her last breath, in some ways, that as painful as it was, it also was just this full circle moment of, I've watched someone born and I've watched someone die, and there is something spiritual to me about that, about experiencing that despite the circumstances. I think also just the reminders help me. My mom's name was Alma. I see her name all the time, and it's not that common of a name, but every time I'll see it on a sign. I was in Times Square. I opened up my hotel window, and on Times Square, the word Alma is listed. Some brand name Alma, but it's just very random. And so I always get comfort in the little symbolisms like that. And we all have something that is it a butterfly? Is it the rose? And I feel like that's, to me, God's gift of giving you just little things to say that person's still here in spirit.
Yeah,
I love that.
I do too.
Thank
Well, we're about to wrap up. Does anybody else have any closing remarks or any other, I guess, takeaways from this that they want to express?
Yeah, maybe just anything that someone listening, one of the people that could not join us today, that at some point said it's too much for me. Anything for them that you guys want to give them as a takeaway?
I want to say be gentle with yourself. Healing comes little by little, step by step. Okay. And even on the hardest days, you're not alone. I just want you to know that it's nothing to be ashamed of. And the biggest thing is you don't have to feel alone. I know it feels like you're alone going through something like that, but that's something you can bet that we all have in common at some point in our lives. And be okay with it. Just accept it, welcome it, go through the change, go through the growth, go through the ups and downs, and you will come out a much enlightened person when it comes to life and making choices and appreciating every moment that we have. It's going to be okay. I just want to say that it's going to be okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. I want to just close today and mention if this conversation's touched you and you want to share this with someone who you think might need it, please do. So thank you everyone for coming tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you
ladies.
for having me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.